Sean Salisbury, No Filter Network. Love being with you. How you doing there, Mr. Salisbury?
I'm doing great, man. How about you?
I'd be a lot better if I had Aaron Donald's bank account. I can freaking tell you that right now, huh? And listen, I'm happy as hell for him. He's the best defensive player in football. I personally did not think he was going to retire. I'm not saying he was bluffing, but I never bought into that. Did you?
Not at all. I mean, last week we had this conversation on my morning drive show. I said, guys, listen, because they said, well, he'd be at peace with retiring. Well, I understand. He probably would. Super Bowl ring. He's been the best defensive player of his era, of his time at his position. He just has. He's a Hall of Famer. He got that ring. He's made a lot of money. He's in. When you look at him, he looks like he's got the body of like a 220 pounder, and he's like 290. It's ridiculous. He's a monster. And we went through his list of endorsements. He's got like 30 of them, right? So he's making a lot of money.
Does he really?
Like, oh, dude, wow. I mean, it's like Leslie National and low. I'm telling you, it's 25 of them. I mean, just boom, boom, boom.
Wow.
Which is really cool. He's a likable guy, and he's a monster on the field. But Grant, I said, listen, I don't believe it's a ploy. Do I believe that Aaron Donald could walk away and feel good, his body? Yes, I do. Wow. Do I believe he is? I said, absolutely not. I said, what's going to happen, the Rams are going to get smart. This is just simply to let him know that he could do it. They're behind. He's going to play football. He ain't retiring because they're going to come back and make him the highest paid player at his position in front seven, let alone now highest paid non-quarterback in the history of the league. $95 million over the next 3 years. What, 47 or so guaranteed for 2022? Even if he was hinting towards retirement, that'll talk your ass out of retirement in a hurry. So I didn't believe I thought it was about 99.2% chance he was playing, and that the only way he'd retire is if they embarrassed him. If they insulted him with a low ball offer, which the Rams weren't dumb enough to do.
All right, I started watching football in the early 60s. To me, the best defensive player that I've ever seen, the defensive player that impacted the game more than any other player that I've ever seen, was Lawrence Taylor. Who would you put in that spot, and where would you put Aaron Donald among that group in NFL history?
Top five already. He's in the top five.
Okay.
I think guys that we didn't see because we didn't have enough games, that if he'd have been playing now, if just shifted it, where we had the same cameras on him and people appreciated him, and overshadowed by one of the best personnel teams ever. Joe Green was that guy.
Yeah.
I'm watching him. Joe Green, when I watched him grow, Joe Green was in, but the LC Greenwood and Ernie Fats Holmes and Whitewood, they were loaded everywhere, right? Yep. But he was a monster player. From the time, at that point in time, you're just like, man, that guy's great. You're intrigued. But when I started studying football, my time, the guys were from hand in the dirt to the mid-level guy to the back-end guy. Hand in the dirt was Reggie White. Mm-hmm. It didn't matter when and where you played. Richard Dent was close, but Rich, when you played against Rich, you underrated in this part of it. Trust me. When you played against Rich, the key with big old Richard was don't piss him off in a game, like cut him. He hated getting cut. Mm-hmm. And so you'd say, don't cut him in the second. And Richard Richard was a great player, but he was really, Richard went about his business the way he wanted to go about his business on that great defense, right? But the second, if you had him in one of those games where, hopefully Richard's energy wasn't through the roof, and a Hall of Fame, great fucking football player. And I love him as a dude too. But then all of a sudden somebody get a little bit overzealous and cut him. And Rich would he'd be so pissed that all hell break loose for the defense. So Reggie with his hand in the dirt. Lawrence Taylor was not only the best at what he did and the most, you slid your defense to Reggie and Lawrence. And Lawrence he was a stand on the edge lines. I put him, he's a linebacker. So he was that level. And then on the back end, while Dion is a cover guy, we know that the best all-around defense. And I played against Lester Hayes for a minute, Mike Haynes later in his career, fantastic. The best difference maker that I ever saw that blitzed from the secondary, could cover, could run, was big and physical, could play corner, could play safety, was Rod Woodson.
Okay.
And he was the only DB that we had to worry because he blitzed off the slot, that we had to know where he lined up in my career. So, and I teammates with Seau. Seau was phenomenal. There's a lot of those guys, but the best, Reggie, with the hand in the dirt, Lawrence as a linebacker, and Lawrence changed that position and the way we play it. And then for my money during my career, Rod Woodson in the back end, because he could do friggin' everything.
I agree 100% about Reggie White. There's no doubt about that. I wanted to ask you about what you said about Dent. No question about how good he was. However, he had the fridge. He had Hampton and McMichael next to him.
Yep.
He had Mike Singletary in the middle. He had Wilbur Marshall and Otis Wilson at the linebackers. So, with that being said, how much did that benefit Dent during that era with the Bears? How much better did that make him as opposed to being on a team that wasn't very good?
It benefited everybody on that team. It benefited Mike Singletary because they kept people off Mike's legs, right? Mike was such a smart, intense player. But you make a great point. I think, Grant, what you mean is like if I stuck Reggie on a 2-14 team at the time, 16 games, would he still disrupt and wreak havoc? The answer is
he would. Yes, he would.
If I stuck Richard Dent with the Pittsburgh Steelers in the 70s, would he wreak havoc? You damn right he would, right?
He'd be scary.
But when you're around that, and it's similar to Joe Green, is like, well, the credit now. Joe had a different type of approach to the game. Is nasty, but listen, when you played for those Steelers, Jack Lambert, and Andy Russell, they're pretty good too. And L.C. Greenwood we probably could have put him in the Hall of Fame.
And Jack Ham.
Jack Ham and he's a.
Right.
Talk about one of the most underrated great players of all time.
Right.
Jack Ham, like Phil Filippiano in that group with Teddy Hendricks, right? So, I would say that Richard benefited because he knew you couldn't double him the whole game.
Yeah.
Right. And the way they played that 46 defense. But Richard was the best, one of the best I've ever been around it. Some guys go into a game pissed off. If you went up to Richard in the pregame, he's just a good dude, right? A good dude. And he can lure you to sleep because you think, oh, he's too nice to be really good. It's like, bad idea. And the second you cut him, dude, if you wanted to get energy, you'd look at your own player and say, don't be a dumbass.
Yeah.
Block him up here because then you may be able to engage him. You block him in the knees. The next, you might as well kiss your ass goodbye.
Hypothetically.
But Aaron Donald's in the top 5. Aaron Donald will dominate. If he was playing in Carolina, if he was playing with the Jets, he'll dominate anywhere.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you from a quarterback perspective.
Yep.
You're getting ready for a game. Would you be more concerned about playing against Lawrence Taylor, Reggie White, Aaron Donald, Richard Dent, or whomever else on the back end? Who would be and you only can choose one here. Who are you going to be like, oh, shit, we got some issues this week?
You know what? I'm always going to choose a guy closer to the line of scrimmage.
Okay.
So a secondary guy, I can play away from him sometimes, right? So they would come last. Now, because I can formation them, if they're a team that doesn't flop with their best player, I can move my formation away.
I got you.
At least neutralize it. But I still got to know, like when you threw the ball in the air, Dion would bait you. He'd let you think you had him beat and catch up. But I'm always closer to the line of scrimmage, closer to the quarterback guy.
Okay.
Now, my pride and selfish reasons say guys I played against, right? Because I think Lawrence Taylor we had Zimmerman and Randall McDaniel were our left tackle, left guard.
Right.
And, dude, that's as good a left side of a line as there is in the history of Upshaw and Shell and Zimmerman and McDaniel, right? I'm telling you, that was friggin' phenomenal. Well, they'd give when Zim, let me tell you something about Gary Zimmerman. Technique-wise, Gary Zimmerman would bury. Gary didn't say anything for the most, like to hunt fish. That good outdoor old lineman, right? And a friggin' great guy and a monster. But, dude, Zim, you knew when Zim's nerves on the week were getting ready to play Reggie or LT.
Yep.
And the fellas would give him a hard time. Hey, Zim. And Randall McDaniel would too. He goes, ooh, Lawrence Taylor this week, huh? And Zim like, motherfucker, he'd be like, and Zim was that guy in the huddle that he wanted to know the play. Like if you stand outside the huddle getting it, he goes, Sean, what's the play? He wanted to know the play before you called it in the huddle so he could start getting in his mind how he was going to do. And when it was Reggie and Lawrence, he wanted it twice as fast, right? Give me that damn play before you step your ass in this huddle. So I know, not that he was afraid, but his nerves were shot, and rightfully so. Hall of Famer blocking Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Trust me, Zim got the best of most of the guys most of the time.
Okay, but
I'm going to answer it. I'm going to answer it.
All right.
I to me, Reggie was such a technician, but so friggin' good. Grant, I saw him. He remember one of our guys, our tackle. I'll leave his name out. I know who it is, and another good player. But I can remember Reggie switched sides one time, was coming in, and he stepped outside. He had that. Remember the club move that Reggie had? Oh
boy!
He took a 300+ pounder. He stepped outside. Our tackle stepped, and Reggie dipped back inside and clubbed him with his right arm, and the side of the guy's helmet hit the ground first. full-grown monster. But, and I hate to do this, because I think LT may be the best all-around defensive player I've ever seen, right?
Right.
But the fearful game plan, and I'll tell you why, is that if I put Aaron Donald at defensive end, I think he could lead the league in sacks from out there. But he's an interior guy, and as a drop-back quarterback, they get to that quarterback faster. So they are nasty against the run. You got to double team them, and they can. It's like a point guard who doesn't score. Even if he doesn't get sacks, he is changed the way you have to protect and run game. So it is close, dude. That is such a hard question, but I'm not gonna. I would probably, and maybe it's recency bias. Even though when I played against, it was like, damn, we're playing against 56 and Reggie. I was like, this is not good. But I would say with the size of pure strength, and Aaron Donald's in such good shape, pure size, strength, explosiveness. I think he's probably the guy that if you don't control, you lose. All three of those guys, I'd go Donald maybe slight. I don't think he's the best defensive player ever. I think he's in the conversation. But I do think when you're game planning, because of where he lines up and what he does to so close to the quarterback, because those guys who sit in the pocket don't want anybody at their legs, right? Sometimes you can push a guy by. So, and it's normal. We don't usually choose interior guys. I would take Donald in a tight one, but it is, if you give me Reggie, okay, I'm going to beat you slightly, because I think he is physically more explosive than the other two. And LT was as explosive off the edge as anybody on the planet.
Breaking news, the Angels have just fired Joe Madden. The Angels have lost 12 in a row. I mean, look at his resume as a manager. I don't know what the hell's wrong with the Angels. I mean, they just never, Mike Trout's being wasted there in terms of, what you want. And it's just, but they've lost 12 games in a row, and Madden just fired. I just wanted to put that in.
Think about this, Grant. Well, on my morning show, my producer, who's an diehard Angels fan from California, he said, he said, if the Angels lose to the Red Sox, they lost 1-0 last night.
Right.
And Michael Walker, what 3-hitter or whatever it was, 3-hitter, and he pitched 9 innings. He said, if the Red Sox beat the Angels tonight, I predict Joe Madden will be fired. Well, they didn't wait.
Wow.
So he's going to stand up and take some bows tomorrow, because they got rid of Joe Madden, as you said. And I will tell you this, that I find it really hard. And listen, when you lose 12 in a row and you were playing good baseball, and it goes somehow, some way, has the speech lost its way or decision making. So I understand the firing, why it has to happen. I get it.
Same with Joe Girardi.
It happens. Girardi as well. But I also, and you can be really good and get fired. It happens in all the businesses. So I understand. But Artie Moreno and that group, they got to start doing it better. This is 20 years now. This is 20 years since they've been in a World Series and won one. And when you say that, it's like, and how can every single, you mentioned Mike Trout, they get Rendon, who's been hurt. You got Ohtani, who's the MVP.
Yeah.
How can you miss on pitching 20 straight years? A staff, right? It's either injuries or pitching that destroys them. So you think in the scouting department, somewhere, somehow, you luck into a good staff in 20 years, right?
Yeah.
And if you're and think about it, all that money Mike Trout makes, and there's a good chance that Mike Trout will never sniff a World Series at bat, considering if we're
That's
going by
unbelievable.
history, it is. And we're not on the biggest stage. So it doesn't surprise me at all. I'm usually a guy who I think we fire coaches and people too soon.
Sure.
But this one's not too soon. It's not too soon.
I did a podcast on this today. I think I feel the exact same way as you. I don't even have to ask you, because I already know how you are. I don't give a shit what your sexuality is. I don't care. Makes no difference to me. What I care about, are you a good person or are you not? I don't really care what your sexuality is. It is a non-issue to me. I feel that what happened in Tampa on Saturday, I have no problem with these nights. All the teams do it now, okay? They do it for a variety of reasons. They want to say, hey, look at us. We support you. So, they keep away from all the political woke bullshit. That's number one. Number two, they get more people into their games. They make more money. They sell more tickets. They sell more concessions. They have
it's a good night of marketing. It is.
Yeah,
sure it is.
Absolutely. So I get that. I think Tampa made a big mistake by having the players wear special logos on their uniform. I hate that in sport. Adam Silver, a couple of years ago, after the bubble in Orlando, before the start of the next season, admitted that putting Black Lives Matter all over the bubble in Orlando was a mistake. The ratings were terrible. And he came out and said, you know what? In hindsight, we went overboard And I have to recognize, and we need to recognize as a league, that there are people, many of whom just want to tune in to watch the game. Again, I'm fine with the Tampa Bay Rays for the 16th year in a row having Pride Night. I got no problem with that at all. I do have a problem with it going onto the field and putting it on the uniforms. The 5 players that did not wear the cap or the logo on their jersey are being ridiculed. They're being maligned. ESPN, Sarah Spain called them bigots. I mean, I can go on and on. It was a faith-based decision on their part. I don't have any problem with that. The issue that I'm having a problem with is, once again, in this country, we can't have constructive dialogue and conversation. I thought the president of Tampa Bay Rays came out and said it beautifully. And he said, the one thing that this has done, it's opened up a new avenue of conversation so that maybe we can all be better. And I agree with that. The venom and the negativity from those that just want to jump on those 5 players because they didn't want to partake in wearing the logo bothers me. I think they're being unfairly labeled and stereotyped, and that really, I think that sucks.
It's a finger pointing bullshit is what it is. Now listen,
that's right.
Listen, we don't have to say. I don't need to. My character speaks for itself when it comes to how I feel about people. You know that, and I don't.
I know that.
Preface this, but sometimes in this day and age, you do because, well, if you don't wear a pride patch or hat, then you're anti-gay. That is far from the truth.
Correct.
First off, if you don't want it to happen, either don't put them on or don't give players the option. Okay, that because now you put them in a box by themselves. It is absurd. So if you don't put Black Lives Matter on your header, or if you didn't wear if you didn't put the blackout sign when it was going through it, does that mean that you don't like African Americans? That's not, it's not fair to those that are going. And if you're the type that says, dude, I can't believe you wore a gay pride patch, then shame on you too. If
that's right.
He wants to, he should. If it's optional to wear it and you want to wear it, good. It doesn't mean, just like I've always said, Grant, I'm a stander for the national anthem. I grew in the military. That's just me. I'm not going to hate the guy next to me. That's up to him. If he wants to kneel down, he can deal with however he wants to deal. I'm never kneeling. Never. That's just part
I'm not either.
It. But if a guy kneels, do I believe he hates the military? The answer to me is no. I don't believe that if you stood during that you're racist. You can actually stand during when your teammates are kneeling and not be considered racist and still love all people. And you can kneel for a reason because we had military fight for the flag, but also some military will tell you, we fought for you to have that right to make that choice. And if you kneel down, that's okay. That's okay. Doesn't mean I have to, and I'm not going to ridicule you and say, well, you're a bad teammate. I stood up. How dare you? You must hate white people if it's for Black Lives Matter, or you must hate our country if you stand and I kneel. You must hate the country, right? No, I love our country. Meaning if you're somebody who did. So they're not exclusive. And in this situation in Tampa, I read over it and I thought, okay, what's the perception? I'm tired of people's perception burying people that may not have an anti-gay bone in their body. Yep. Because maybe, and I know that when some people say, well, it's because of religion. Well, and then people ridicule them for saying, oh, that's your excuse. That's your hideout. Well, here's what I don't understand. So if that is it, so now you're telling me that you're anti-religion then. If that's what if your family or if your says that, listen, you believe in heterosexual marriage, or you don't believe in that you would teach your kids that heterosexual, if that's the case, I'm just speaking out, which people have all different kinds of opinions. Listen, I'm not here to disrupt anybody's life. And in that situation, I'd have to mull over what I am. I come from a heterosexual family, but that doesn't mean that I don't support or wouldn't defend somebody who's being abused that's gay, because I would, or somebody that's being bullied. I don't stand for. Matter of fact, bullying is about the lowest form of life you can have in life.
The worst.
I mean, it is the worst, because bullies are always, if you're a bully in one thing, you're a bully in everything.
Yep.
But the other side, and when you've got a platform to bully people, that's not a good thing. But just because you decided that it's, and you were given a choice that you didn't want to wear it, does not make you a bigot. And then we label him. And here's the problem when you label Brooks Raley a bigot. Now, I don't know deep in his heart what Brooks Raley, what he thinks, I can only speak for me. I don't know if he's like, listen, I just don't believe in that. That's not the way I was raised. Okay. Am I supposed to hate him? No. And maybe if you're gay, you don't invite him to your party at home because he doesn't come over. But that doesn't mean necessarily that he's not going to defend you when he needs to defend you. He just, there's a difference in being anti and endorsing. Just because you don't endorse it doesn't mean you're anti. Listen, am I supposed to hate a friend who smokes cigarettes, but I'm not going to ever endorse it? Does that make sense?
Understand.
You get what I'm saying in a
I understand.
way.
Yeah.
So
Spot on.
My point is that we use these platforms when we have them to, and I don't, like I said, most people in life, you know what I wouldn't know if they didn't tell you? What their sexual preference is unless I don't know.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I will tell you this, I will defend race, religion, gender. I will defend anybody that is getting bullied by somebody who doesn't like. I will, and I will fight them till the end. But
good for you.
I have zero issue if you don't want to wear a patch promoting.
I have no issue.
Then I got. There's bigger things for me to concern myself with, whether it's that patch or anything else. To go out and make a difference and do it. And I don't know what those 5 guys do on their own time. That's for them to decide. But I can tell you this: I don't believe you deserve to be ridiculed. You can be. You can make your own decision without being anti anything.
Amen.
Amen. I just hate it. And then you get labeled that. And you know what people say? Oh, you hate gay. No, I don't hate. If you're those guys, no, it's just I have a different belief. People want you to have freedom of speech and belief only at times if it fits a narrative for them.
Correct.
And so if you don't want to celebrate, just like if you decide you're not standing for the national anthem and as a fan in the stands because you got a problem and I'm sitting next to you, I'm not going to slap you upside the head. I'm probably not even going to ask you why.
Sure.
I'm just going to go about my business and you got to decide you're come to Jesus, whatever the reason is. So no, I have no problem with those guys doing it. And if people want to be critical, that's fine. But to label them, I got a real problem with. I do.
Okay. I'm now going to switch to Deshaun Watson. I do believe innocent until proven guilty. We have now had a 24th accuser come forward to file a suit. I always like to talk about common sense. Okay. Common sense is Deshaun Watson is guilty. All right. Common sense is these 24 women are not all making up some story to frame him. I also was just like, what the hell was Rusty Hardin talking about a couple of days? I mean, I could not believe it. I was just like, I had to read that twice to make sure I was not misreading what he said in the interview. Deshaun Watson, again, common sense tells me he's guilty and that these women are not lying. Now, could some of the women possibly being embellishing? What maybe, but these 24 women are not all together, all right, trying to ruin Deshaun Watson's life. I wonder how the National Football League, who has said, I believe Roger Goodell said this at the draft, that the investigation was either just finishing it up or was finished and there would be a decision forthcoming. I don't see how the National Football League can allow Deshaun Watson to play anytime soon. And by that, I know a lot of people think there's going to be the basic 6-game suspension. I think a 6-game suspension would be a major slap in the face to these 24 women, okay? I think it's going to be much more than 6 games. I will be surprised if it's not a minimum, an absolute minimum of half the season, and it would not surprise me if he was suspended for the whole year.
Grant, I'm with you. And being in Houston, I'm sitting right in the middle of this thing.
Yes, you are.
Not in the middle because I'm not in the legal part. And Rusty Hard's a powerful attorney. Yeah. And so is, both attorneys are powerful. And we've said it a million times too about people deserve to be heard. Now, this 24th accuser, remember now, of the other when all the criminal charges were thrown out.
Correct.
They were just dismissed. The 24th wasn't involved in that. This is a new one. Rusty Hardin says, we're not familiar with this one. If that 24th one wants to file criminal charges, he will have to go back and deal with that because this no longer falls under now, if the person says, no, I'm just getting in on the civil, okay, but that person still now, this has almost become a standalone, the 24th, right? Because of the timing of it. You're so right about common sense. I don't know Deshaun Watson. I'm here, Deshaun Watson. It's the strangest turn of events that in a media that I've ever been close to being here. a guy that was beloved, then said he didn't want to be in the city after leading the league in passing, got a huge contract from the Texans. And then all of a sudden, the month after that, when he said he didn't want to be in the city, then this comes down the pike. I don't know what's all true. I have a hard, first off, it's awfully suspicious if 24 are collaborating to go after Deshaun Watson, right? And it's not like if you wanted a normal massage, one of these massage places professional, and you walk in there, you can do it. And I'm not saying these women weren't, but if it was just about getting a deep tissue massage on your back, you can go and see all these 5-star rated places. But whatever his fetish, whatever it is with massages from somebody from out of state or on there, whatever it is. And they haven't dismissed, as Rusty Hardin said, a happy ending, saying that's not commonplace. And they haven't dismissed the fact that there was consensual sex. So if you don't go into it like that, then how does consent? And he's got. I guess what I'm saying is, when I look at it, it's like I side eye like, how can? And he said he's innocent, has never done anything wrong. There hasn't been any remorse on his part at all.
Zero
at all. It's zero. Matter of fact, it's a sense of arrogance along the way.
Denial.
And he said that he's no regrets. So if you're these 24 women now, and I don't know what went on, he may not have. If you maintain you're innocent, fight it to the end. Don't settle. Fight it to the end. Correct. So people can say, you know what? See, screw all you people who jumped out in front of this. Fight it to the end. If you settle, you may still be innocent, but it tells me that most people, court of public opinion, will say, yeah, he settled because he didn't want to have to deal with it anymore. That's what they'll say, even though it's not fair because, well, you're still innocent until proven guilty. But when we say guilty of criminal charges and we're somebody like, oh, okay, I don't know of the 24. I don't know any of them either. But I can tell you this, if nothing else, it's awfully suspicious. And secondly, he's not just – if you'd asked me this, Grant, in March, I'd have said, well, I don't know. And then after the criminal charge, I said, okay, we just suspended Calvin Ridley, the NFL did, for a $1,500 bet for a minimum of a year.
Right.
Minimum of a year.
Right.
He's got, I don't know when, but just my opinion. I have no inside legal, anybody telling me. There's no way there's a full season he's not going to play.
I agree.
And
I agree.
If there's 24, is there 28? Is there somebody else going to say? And I think what happens when you approach this, I'm not saying through being humble, you have to admit, you want to admit something that you don't believe you did if you didn't do it. These women deserve to be heard. So does Deshaun Watson. But with this, I would think that some kind of remorse saying, I'm sorry that we were ever in those situations or that I made anybody uncomfortable. I haven't seen, other than what we read what he said to them. Yeah. I don't know. There's a sense of Teflon where I don't think he thinks you can't touch him legally, and he because they pay him a new contract and the rest of it. He's won when it comes to the money side all the time. So nobody wins in this. The scars will be deep PR wise. His PR hit for these women if they were violated, then those scars are going to last forever, no matter how much money they get in this. If they do get so, Grant, I'm going to tell you, the optics alone. You can't just do this on optics. It wouldn't be fair to either side. But I am with you. I have a hard time believing. I don't know what's true in there, but what do we usually say? Somewhere in the middle lies the truth, right? Somewhere in there. If it's 1 or 20, it's still. It's not. You can't do that if somebody doesn't want you to do it. So if 24 were consensual and they said, "Yeah, I'd love to do it for an extra," which is obviously appears not the case. So you went 6 games. I'm with you. I think that's what
way too little.
Weed and a $1,500 bet. I would be willing to bet now, Grant. If you said, Sean, lay it down, I'm going to say he misses a full season.
I agree.
2022 or 2023.
I agree.
I think you have to.
All right, tomorrow, Game 3, NBA Finals. Couple of thoughts on this series. The Warriors have won 7 of 8 quarters. Game 1, the 4th quarter for Boston. Here's the difference that I see right now. First of all, Boston's happy. They're going home 1-1.
Like you wanted them to.
That's correct.
You needed them to have that happen, right?
And I thought Boston, in order to win the championship, would have to win 2 games on the Warriors' home court. So they've already won 1. There's no way the Celtics are winning this series unless the Jason Tatum that I saw against Miami reemerges. They're not. They're not going to beat the Warriors. They may not beat them anyway, but they are not beating them without Jason Tatum being the Tatum that we saw against Miami. The difference that I see between these two teams right now is one team has Steph Curry and the other team doesn't. And I just, barring an injury to Curry, I don't see the Warriors losing this series. I don't think the Warriors are going to have any issues going into Boston and winning a game. It's not going to be an issue for them. And I also look at Boston this year in the playoffs. They've been very sporadic at home. They had some bad losses against Miami. They lost a couple of home games to Milwaukee. So it's not like going into Boston is like, oh, wow, we can't win in Boston.
It's not like the Boston Garden was, right?
That's no, absolutely not. And again, I'm not diminishing how good the Celtics are. All I'm saying is they're not winning this series unless Tatum is the Tatum that we saw in Miami. And I'm wondering why he has been so ineffective. Now, I know he had 13 assists in game one, and I get that. But when you think of Tatum, you're thinking of a guy that is going to carry the load offensively in terms of scoring, and we haven't seen that. And that's puzzling to me because he was just the MVP of the Eastern Conference Finals.
There's no question about it. Grant, if both teams play their best,
the Warriors win.
Golden State wins.
Right.
If Jason Tatum, now listen, you know how I feel. I said if he's not the best player in the series, they're not winning. They may push it to 7. Right. I don't think they'll win it. And I just the firepower itself is too well. Even if Tatum goes off, you got a chance that Clay and Steph can go off and Draymond can get involved. You know what I'm saying? There's just it's if both play their best. And you're right. Here's what I do know: assists, and I agree, getting assists and doing it all. And it'd be great to have a Magic Johnson 42, 15, and 7 in Game 6 against the Sixers. But we want our superstars to take over a game with the ball in the hand and score. Jordan, Magic, Steph. That's what we want. And the truth is, that's what they need.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know, and I've told you many times, I'm a huge Jason Tatum fan. You got to call he's got to shoot well. He's got to dominate the basketball. He's got to take over, and the mindset has to be the only way we're winning. And even if it sounds selfish, it doesn't mean he's got a ball hog. He's got to get open shots for people. The only way that we win it is if I carry this team on my shoulders. And guess what? Superstars that we put into rarefied air, that's what they have to do. And then that's what we expect them to do. Not only does he have to be the best player in the series, he's got to play like a top 3 or 4 player in the NBA to get, and he's rising up this on the rate. He's a good player, but he's got to be great in the series. The rest of he can't be good. He's got to be great.
You think this series goes back to San Francisco 2-2 or 3-1?
I'm going to say that the Celtics get one at home.
Me too.
I think it's going back 2-2.
They've shown a great resiliency to bounce back after bad losses. They don't lose 2 games in a row very often, but the Warriors will win at least one game in Boston, in my opinion.
No doubt about it. So, yes, this hinges on Tatum because here's the problem. Now, I know we saw in game 1 where he didn't score and Jaylen Brown did his thing, and the best number 2 in this series is Klay Thompson. Right? The best number, meaning the second best player on a team, either team. Thompson's the next guy. Who can hang 35 on you in a blink of an eye?
That has been awful.
That's exactly right.
Right.
And look, they blow them out in game 2. And the only way the Celtics won game 1 was the fourth, their late run. When I'm watching that game, I say, oh, man, am I going to turn this off? Next thing you know, Celtics win a basketball game. So, I think that the Celtics can hang in there. They both play their best. But Jason Tatum is going to have to go all Kevin Durant. He's Michael Jordan. He has got to understand, because if he comes out of this series playing average, guess what these shows are going to do to him? They're going to get him. And whether it deserves it or not, they're going to get him because we hold our stars here. We want them to elevate in these. And this is his first chance to elevate in this finals. We got to see him do it if you're a Celtic, if the Celtics are going to win.
Good show today, buddy. We covered a lot of topics. Appreciate you.
Love it, man. Always great to be with you. Fast moving. You're the best. I appreciate you, man. Thanks.
Have a good one. Take care. Grant Napier, Sean Salisbury. Great to have you with us here on No Filter Network.